By now, our journey through CNOOC's decision-making process has clarified the best course of action. We know what to do. However, without a commitment to action, this best alternative offers nothing more than potential value. Commitment to action, the final leg of our journey, creates value by moving decisions to actions. A decision isn't truly made until resources have been committed to its execution. This requires a mental shift from thinking to doing. We have all experienced this. Deciding to buy a house or car is thinking. Signing the contract and paying for it is doing. Yet even with a good decision, the shift from thinking to doing can be difficult, especially if there's the potential for a bad outcome. So how do we get the confidence to act? Inaction is usually caused by a weak link in the decision quality chain. So before we commit, we should ask some key questions. Is the frame clear and still appropriate? Have all the alternatives been considered, and can hybrid alternatives offer even more value? Does the benefit of new information exceed its cost? Have all the decision criteria been incorporated? Would further analysis significantly improve the decision? Has everyone bought into the results, and have we put in place actions to manage the best and worst case scenarios? Time for an example. Meet Amy. Each year, Amy and her friends take turns to organise a college reunion. Last year was organised by Dee, and it was the best yet. This year, it's Amy's turn, and she's feeling the pressure. Some people have moved further away, making logistics more difficult, and a couple of others can't afford an expensive trip. So how do they make a good decision about this year's reunion and get commitment from the group? Let's look at 3 scenarios: the good, the bad, and the ugly, in which Amy makes a plan and tries to get commitment from the group. Let's start with the ugly. In this case, Amy is so focused on coming up with a better than last year event, she forgets about the wider group's needs, and in her excitement, books a lavish weekend away without consulting her friends. She also forgets about implementation, sending out invitations, but failing to follow up on who can make it. Come the reunion weekend, Amy is left on her own with a huge bill to pay. So, where did Amy go wrong? Firstly, she defined a frame that worked for her. Organise a better event than Dee's. But that criteria wasn't important to the rest of the group. If Amy had considered the needs and circumstances of the others, it would have identified givens about cost and people's travel limitations. This would have changed Amy's view of the problem. Secondly, Amy got so excited by her idea that she failed to consider other alternatives that might have been better. While failing to involve others in the decision process and thus gain their support for her idea, led to a lack of group commitment. Finally, Amy forgot about communication and implementation. What if someone cancels? Can she get a refund from the hotel? To make a high-quality decision, Amy needs to identify how to implement the decision and the actions required to manage risks and opportunities. Now, the bad scenario. Here, Amy does realise the group needs to be part of the decision-making process. She sends out an email to get ideas, but is overwhelmed with conflicting suggestions. Rather than using a structured decision process, Amy is paralysed by indecision and leaves everything to the last minute. No one knows what's happening and what they need to do. 1 week before the reunion, Amy finally makes a plan, but has no time to implement it. The group end up stuck in a bad hotel with no dinner reservations. Better than last year? I don't think so. While Amy started well by involving the wider group, her lack of structured thinking and an implementation plan led to a bad decision and a bad outcome. How could she have avoided the stuck in a bad hotel with no dinner disaster? So, what does good look like? Amy could have set up an online group to discuss what everyone wants from the reunion and their constraints and preferences. With everyone understanding the frame, they then brainstorm a list of creative, doable alternatives. Amy investigates and analyses these alternatives against their key decision criteria: friends spending time together, making the weekend feasible, and having lots of fun. Amy concludes that camping is the best option, but when thinking of the risks, worries that rain might spoil their stay. She then explores a hybrid alternative, combining the best of camping with some benefits of the other solutions, and proposes they go glamping in log cabins. The group readily agree, and with a quick decision made, Amy has time to develop an action plan to create the best weekend for everyone. She then shares this with the group and allocates the tasks needed to make the weekend happen. So how did it go? It did indeed rain, but glamping was a blast. The group all toasted Amy's decision-making and planning of what was the best reunion ever. By using an effective decision-making process that involved the right people throughout and developing a clear implementation plan, Amy made a good decision, got commitment to action, and had a good outcome. Cheers! Decision quality is the goal of every decision-making process, tailored to each decision's magnitude, quick, significant, or strategic, and its complexity, both organisationally and analytically. The process should always consider the 6 decision quality elements: an appropriate frame, creative, doable alternatives, meaningful, reliable information, clear decision criteria and trade-offs, logically correct reasoning, and finally, a commitment to action. For more information, go to the decision analysis page on Jive.